Yes! I can't wait to watch the Bulls game on my new TV.
Oh, no. Our new TV.
I knew it. Okay, Bull Boys. Here we go. Bulls.
All right, so the latest news is Billy Donovan apparently has entered COVID protocols, health and safety protocols. So just when we kind of had the idea that the Bulls were at full strength and, preparing to get over this hurdle of a depleted roster, now their coach is going out, which I guess isn't the end of the world. But how do you think this will affect things going forward for this team?
Man, it's just like another crazy blow if we think about it. Kind of like we were talking about with like disrupting the rhythm last time with guys coming back from COVID and having to adjust individually and then as a team. Billy Donovan being out is just another hurdle, kind of along those same lines. I know assistant coach Chris Fleming is going to take over for a little bit, but
yeah,
it's just, man, we got 10 guys just returned from COVID protocols and our coach goes down the next day. Like, we had a great practice.
right.
And Billy Donovan gets announced that he's in protocol. So it's just, man, like, can't catch a break right now.
I know. And you had heard about other coaches who had caught it, throughout this whole blowout, basically. But
Right.
Donovan was one of the ones who didn't. And then as soon as his team is back to full strength and practicing, it happened. So yeah, like you said, it's just bad luck. It's a bad blow. It's bad timing, all of the above.
Yeah, it'll be good to see a healthy roster. I mean, I know we signed a couple replacement guys recently. The one I want to shout out first is Alfonso Mckinney. I was a Chicago native.
Right. Yeah.
He's had a couple nice games since he's been inserted in the lineup. And then we'll see if we get a chance to get a look at Mac McClung and then Bucks legend, Ursula Silva.
He's hit many a clutch threes from that corner.
Way too many. Yeah, I remember killing us. What playoff series was that? I think when Giannis was first on the scene. It was like him, Carter Williams, OJ Mayo, that team. Did they have Jabari Parker? Bayless.
I remember that team. Yeah.
Jared Bayless.
Yeah. Bayless. Was that bald Bayless with the headband or?
Oh yeah, it was.
I can't remember which okay. I can't remember which style he was rocking at the time. Yeah, so quick other thing you just reminded me of. Did Lonzo catch COVID at all? Was he the only player?
He hasn't. Yeah, I don't think Dotson has either.
I thought he was.
No, Dotson was just in protocols, but he got cleared.
He
really
got cleared.
quickly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think him or Lonzo have gotten it that I know of.
For Lonzo to be a starter, around these main guys, like I think I saw the quote. He was like, "Yeah, I just play basketball and go home." Like
Exactly, just super low key.
Yeah, I'm not out here in these streets, so maybe that's either telling to what the other players are up to, or Alonso is just getting really lucky on his end. But
kind of like they're saying how Jordan was dry snitching in the Last Dance documentary.
Right. People catching strays without even being warranted for that.
That was hilarious.
But yeah, so a lot of postponements have kind of happened as of late with this breakout of the Omicron variant. So there really hasn't been a lot of Bulls action lately. So we're going to briefly, I guess, get into the games we have been able to see, particularly starting with the Lakers on Sunday. And then we can move into the Houston game next. But cool. From the Lakers on Sunday, what was your impressions from the comeback game for the LA killer DeMar DeRozan, and just how did you feel seeing the team out there working their way back to full strength?
Yeah, like first, as you said, it's just great seeing the Bulls play basketball again. Just a reminder of how good this team is and just potential of the team. Obviously the Lakers didn't have AD, but I thought that DeMar was, despite LeBron's incredible stretch that he's had lately, I thought DeMar was the best player in the game, especially in the fourth quarter, and that's where he really took over. And it's been a common theme the entire season, and that's really the takeaway, I think, from this game, because DeRozan once again just showed that even without Zach LaVine there. He can be that alpha guy who can just take over and make difficult shots and make key plays down the stretch. Which last year, obviously, you remember teams were just keying on Zach, and he'd have to take a difficult shot, or especially before Vooch got there. So I think we saw for the first time, obviously without Zach, but the first time where we saw DeRozan and Vooch have a strong night on the same night. And you see how powerful that duo can be just on its own. And the fact that they're able to put it together like they did, DeRozan had 38, 6 and 4, Vooch 19 and 13, shot respectable percentage, 47%, hit three threes, had a lot of contributions at the top of the line for the Bulls. Across that starting five, really, Lonzo was great. He's been great in these last two games, but yeah, he started with the Laker game, just everywhere defensively and just really wreaking havoc out there.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting with LeBron's end of the spectrum. He's kind of entering this phase now where he still gets his numbers, but the impact doesn't feel the same. Like in the past, like he's just been scary every time we played him, right? It's just like you're just waiting for the moment or the sector of the game where he's just going to dominate. But it's like he's still dominant in terms of his production, but like at the same time, it doesn't have the same ripple effect on the rest of the team. And obviously, this Lakers team is depleted, but I still have kind of noticed this trend. Maybe you have too, just where like he gets his numbers now, but he's not the imposing kind of player he used to be. And so it seemed like the Bulls, particularly DeMar DeRozan, took that to heart. And you also got to remember the history, right? Like from DeMar's perspective, this is the same guy that was just torturing him in the playoffs year after year in Toronto.
Right.
Imagine if you're a hyper competitive athlete in the NBA, that's somewhere in the back of your mind. Like, I'm going to go at this guy. And so that just reminds me of the type of shot making he was taking over LeBron in the fourth quarter, in clutch moments, at home, and delivering, right? So that dynamic was probably the most interesting thing for me to watch. So it was, first of all, I was just really happy to see DeMar back, but then to do that first game back, hadn't had any really ramp up games or anything. I thought that was impressive.
No, it definitely was. And then that's a good note you said about the rivalry back in the day. There's no back down from DeRozan now, especially at this point. The fear I think for the Lakers is gone. The aura of LeBron as this great player, that's definitely not gone because he's still dominant, but
Of
kind of to
course,
your
yeah.
point, he picks his spots a little differently now, where he'll get his numbers throughout the flow of the game, but there won't really be a crazy takeover at the end of games because he has to carry so much of the load. I feel like throughout the course of the game. I was watching them yesterday against the Spurs, and LeBron had 20 in the first half. He had an excellent game in the first half. Had 20 in the first half, was killing. The team's down 11. It's not for anything LeBron's done, but that team is it's a weird roster makeup where it's kind of back to the Cleveland days where it's just a bunch of guys who can't really
Right.
get on their own. And if Westbrook's not really, in charge or having a great game in terms of control, taking care of the ball, you're probably going to lose or you're going to be in a dogfight. So I
Yeah.
think the Bulls, they took advantage of their athleticism. They were able to get out in transition. We saw a couple of nice dunks from Javante and, getting out in transition with Lonzo and Caruso. Caruso's been great, especially on that hamstring. That's a tough injury. He obviously
Right.
couldn't finish the Houston game, but to have the impact he did against his former team once again, with hustle plays and just being active defensively everywhere, had 9 rebounds. Like he's proven to be able to play so many different positions already. It's kind of crazy that he's been able to do this. And like I said, also fighting through injury.
Right. Yeah, I kind of hope at this point we can find a way to manage his minutes and reduce them, like still find a way to pick the spots so he can be effective and help um determine outcomes that are, winning basketball, but at the same time try and just save him for the playoffs, because this I think this is a point where we can comfortably say the Bulls are going to make the playoffs, right? Like
Right, yeah.
any sort of like run or push, it's like I want him 100% healthy. And obviously you can't really be 100% healthy at that point of the season, but you know what I mean. I want him as healthy as possible, and because of how hard he plays and because, which I alluded to on previous episodes, like with this team being small, you kind of have to overcompensate on top of that by just out hustling, outworking, defending bigger guys who are, pounding down low and etc. Um, yeah, I just want him to be as full strength as possible because I think he'll be most effective. Like we'll really, really see that value actualize in the playoffs.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just want him to be broken down, and he's like playing on one leg, still trying because he's going to still try. But it's
Yeah.
just I would prefer to not see that version.
Yeah, I agree. Just like how we saw with the Houston game, where he, like you say, he plays so,
Right.
not 100% just go, but it's like kind of more calculated. But he plays so hard that he can't, you know, if there's an opportunity for a loose ball, he's not gonna think about it twice. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna
He's gonna die for it.
pursue the ball. He's gonna give up his body. Yeah, you already
Right.
know. So and hamstring injuries are tricky too. So somebody,
Yeah.
an athlete like that too, gets up and down the floor, can get up there. You don't really want to have a lingering hamstring issue because that can be something that you can exaggerate and then you're out for a long period of time. So to your
Right.
point, it's good that guys are starting to come back. I'm excited to see Ayo back. I'm excited to see more of Alfonso Mckinney, Kobe White. Hopefully, he can get into more of a better shooting rhythm because that still hasn't really happened yet. Although you guys shot him off with that dunk. Did he dunk on
Man.
LeBron? Do you technically
So
call it dunk?
I've
LeBron's a streamer, but
I've heard people classify it as he dunked on LeBron. I personally would say he didn't, but LeBron was in the mix for sure.
right,
Like
right,
for me to dunk on somebody, they got to be in front of you. LeBron was behind him, if I'm not mistaken. But
right, right,
I
right.
see how you could make the case, but I I think that's up to the individual to decide. Nonetheless, it was a nice dunk because we all know LeBron is a chase down block artist, and so it looked like he was trying to like calculate the steps he needed to do that.
I
And
know.
Kobe just snuck up on him and just yammed it quick, and so he didn't have a chance.
I
So
think
that's
he
what
could
made
have
that
caught
nice
him off.
dunk.
Yeah, I think he could have caught him off guard a little because
And he didn't do that.
I didn't either. I didn't think he was gonna get up that
Didn't.
quickly.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. But okay, yeah, quick question, quick question. Do you think that's more of a? I mean, you can't classify that as a dunk on, but how does it compare that to the famous dunk from John Starks? Because a lot of people say that Jordan wasn't in the picture. They didn't actually dunk on Jordan because he was kind of close, but not exactly there. But it just kind of reminded me of that situation, even though they're completely different plays.
Right. Yeah. I definitely like the Starks dunk better. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just think with these sort of things, it's up to interpretation, right? Like art. It's up to you to decide. But
I'll give
that'll
LeBron benefit
that'll
of the
vary.
doubt, though. Yeah, I'll give him benefit of the doubt on this play. Like you said, he was trailing, so I mean, I
Right.
know he wanted to get that chase down, but Kobe was a little too quick for him. Let me
Right.
see.
Yeah.
Who
And
else?
so then
Anybody else catch your eye from that game?
from the Lakers game,
Yeah,
um, not particularly. I think my main takeaway from that was just it was good to see the team back. It was great to see DeRozan really assert himself. Also, Vooch though, right? Like Vooch played a good game.
yeah,
You can tell that the break was productive for him. It sounds like from his perspective, he just kind of got back to basics and put in some more work, and just kind of allowed himself with the time off to reset. And I think it actually translated pretty well. I think he looked a lot more comfortable out there. Um, there was a mention about when he's on balance, then it seems like his shots tend to fall more. And I would actually agree with that sentiment. It seems like a lot of the shots he was taking before, especially around the post, like any sort of jump hooks, turning over, left or right shoulder, it just seemed like it was rushing. His balance was off, but it seems like there's more times than not now where his balance is a lot better, and then
right.
that's translating to stronger makes in positions where he can make these things. So yeah, I would say DeRozan and Vooch were really nice to see, and then I just love how consistent Lonzo's been, and especially his like willingness to take threes as well. Like he took 9 threes in the Lakers game, and yeah, I just think his willingness to take the threes was always a big step for him, because it's like he improved as a shooter, but you gotta take them, right? It's almost like the Ben Simmons thing, where it's like
Right,
you don't know
right,
what you have because he doesn't take any.
right.
So
You can't be
uh,
afraid or you can't shy away from the shot if it's open. You know, I feel
right,
like. And to your point, he had 9, I think, attempts in that first game, or 6 in the game against the Lakers, and then 8 against the Rockets. So he's
yeah,
starting to fire it up there, and then accuracy will get there, especially from straight away. He's a
yeah,
good shooter, yeah, just straight, looking straight at the basket from mid range and three. So
right, and he's just a perfect option for this team, because a lot of his opportunities seem to be catch and shoot, right? And so all he has to do is
yeah,
just kind of get in the right spot, and then that catch and shoot mechanic works for his jump shot. So it's perfect.
right.
Yeah. Um, and then moving on to the next game, which was Houston. So the Bulls were able to pull that one out, 133 to 118. Um, Obviously Houston got the better end of the Bulls previously. So there's
Man,
maybe a little bit of revenge coming into this one. But what was the one of the most impressive things from that Houston game on your end?
for me, I think two guys that, well, there's a lot of guys who contributed big numbers actually, but the two I want to single out are Alonzo, and then I know it's hard with Kobe White. Obviously, we're talking about the Laker game, but this is the player I want to see moving forward, where
Mm-hmm.
you saw a lot less hesitation in this game. He got back to playing the way he did when he was in the groove early in the year last year, putting up big numbers, shooting a lot from deep. He had 9 attempts, hit 5 of them. He just seemed a lot more into that scoring rhythm, but I think it has taken this amount of time where it makes sense. And even that, with the guys being out, he had the liberty to play a lot of minutes and play through mistakes. Where a few weeks ago, when we were at full strength, he didn't have that luxury, especially with us winning games and then him coming back from a long layoff. So that's the aggressive version of Kobe White I want to see. He had 24 points in 31 minutes. Obviously, you're not asking him to do that every night, but if he
Right.
can get into doubles, 12 to 14 points, I feel like that's great for the Bulls. A couple of threes off the bench to help our, outside shooting totals, because on any given night that could be can kind of fluctuate.
Yeah.
Um, Lonzo was everywhere defensively. 5 steals. His shot,
Right.
he was going to the basket, finishing. You know, hit 4 threes. I thought he did a little bit of everything, and this is the version I want to see when Zach returns. I still want to see him get to the basket. I still want to see him be aggressive in that way, because if he starts to play like that, play more downhill, it's over. It's going to be so tough to stop us because
Yeah.
he's such a willing passer. He's going to find open men. He's looking to find open men regardless. So if he's able to attack more downhill and not just rely on spotting up from deep and, you know, wouldn't say disappears during games, but if his role is just that of a spot up shooter at certain points, you're just gonna fall in love with that because he's a great shooter. But he
Yeah.
should just mix it up and drive more. Which we saw a couple of nice finishes versus the Rockets. And yeah, he was great. And then obviously got to shout out Alfonso Mckinney. He had 4 threes off the bench, 16 and 5. He was just really impressive. Once again, it's another guy. I think he falls into that utility mode. He's played that role in his career. Came in like as a undrafted guy at the Warriors a few years ago. Played with the Lakers. And he's another one of those guys where even if you start the year with the team, you could slot him in 5 minutes, 25 minutes. He's going to give you maximum effort. And that's just another great piece I feel like to have at the end of the bench. And they're going to have some tough decisions to make in terms of roster cuts because I feel like McKinney might deserve a long-term shot.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I was just listening to the Bulls Talk podcast when Rob Schaefer was talking about the exact same thing. He's like, he's watching them out there, and he's like, this is kind of what the Bulls were looking to add to their team before all the players were out, right? Where it's just like a wing in that 6'8" or 6'7" to kind of 6'8" um, frame that can defend, can shoot, plays hard, like hustles, like And McKinney kind of exhibited all of that in this Houston game, I think,
Right.
perfectly, right? He just came in, he was knocking down shots, he was grabbing offensive rebounds, tough defensive rebounds, like
Man, he's a great
um
rebounder for a wing. I noticed that back in the day. Was with
right.
back in the day, a couple years ago with the Lakers. Man, but yeah, he's a great offensive rebounder. He has a nose for the ball. And he just doesn't give up on
Yeah,
plays. Like I know these are all cliches, but you need that to build championship teams. You need
you
these
do.
types of guys, and how motivated he is. Obviously, playing for the Bulls, saying it's a dream come true to play for the Bulls as a West
Yeah.
Side kid. That's amazing.
Right. It's an extra boost. It's an intangible, right? You can't really measure from an analytic standpoint. I mean, I guess it can translate to analytics, but the actual intangible, which is what you just talked about, hometown roots and just that drive to like, he may be trying harder in this opportunity than if I don't know, Oklahoma City called him up, right? Like it
Right?
just
Yeah.
it's just you can't really measure sort of things, but he's made it clear like you can throw him into this mix in terms of like chemistry and roster construction, and he's a seamless fit. So yeah, I agree. There's some tough decisions to make there, but I would at this point vouch to kind of try and keep him around.
I think they should. I think they should. Just like you said, they wanted to do this anyway. They wanted to, barring a trade and I don't think they want to mess up the roster chemistry or the makeup
Right.
in terms of what they want to do with stacking these athletic wings, guys who can play multiple positions and who won't complain about minutes. I don't think they want to disrupt that rhythm. So a guy like
Yeah.
McKinney, you can get him off the waiver wire. That's great. You know what I mean?
You're right.
That's
It's a
kind of like
luxury.
found money. Yeah. So I think he does have a long term spot on the team. Um, yeah, it's cool though. At least we're starting to see. We said this in the last episode. What guys will step up throughout? Obviously, guys missing because of COVID protocols, and we've seen a little bit of Devon Dotson, McKinney, Tyler Cook, two-way guy who played well off the bench. He got minutes over Tony Bradley off the bench as well
Yeah.
in the Houston game, so we might see more of him going forward. But yeah, it's just cool to see the young guys step up and start to get a rhythm with Billy Donovan in terms of, I can trust you later on.
Yep. Absolutely. I'd also like to point out Lonzo with a plus 17 for any player who played over 20 minutes. So that definitely backed up the eye test in terms of just how effective he looked out there.
Yeah, he looked great, man. And
Yeah.
it's like I said, I just need him to keep up that aggressiveness when Zach gets back because I knew at a certain point Zach and DeMar going to the basket or just being aggressive as scorers would rub off on Lonzo. You've seen it from beyond the arc. He's just really confident as a shooter because he's worked on that a lot. But going to the basket is where he can make his mark and just unlock more parts of his game. Because if he starts finishing better at the basket, you turn from a potential 12 to 14 point guy to 18 to 20. Like it's really that simple in terms of
Right.
how the numbers might shake out with how many threes he hits too.
Yeah. And I'd like to remind you, he's the fourth option, right?
I
It's
know,
just like
yeah.
it's like obviously on paper, if you hear Lonzo Ball in fourth option, that doesn't always necessarily line up. Like you would think he's a better player than that, but I think all of that doesn't matter because it's just a perfect situation, which is if you relate back to the offseason, that's why he wanted to come here. Like I think he could see the pieces probably based on how the team described their willingness to get him on the team. Like he could see how that was going to gel no matter who they brought on, and this we're actually experiencing it now.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to see similarly sized guys too. You know what I mean? Like these are all
Yeah.
6'6",
Yeah.
6'7" athletic wings, athletic perimeter players that are interchangeable in a way in terms of their role or what their responsibility could be. That's why it's cool to see it working. We're like, Lonzo doesn't have a game that can get in Zach's way. I know a lot of people thought that Zach
Right.
and DeMar had games that were getting each other's way, but they don't because Zach, he operates a lot on the perimeter. And if he's driving to the basket, he is by you. He
Right.
doesn't really like it's over. He's going to the basket. He's gonna get if he gets the step, it's over. And he doesn't really pull
It
up
is.
as much as DeMar would from mid range. That's his zone, and then he'll score at the
That's a good
basket as
point.
well.
That's
So
a
it's
good
not like
point.
they get each other's way, or Zach's I need this shot, or he can't spot up. If he's opening from anywhere without a contest, him or Alonso, that's easy money. So
Right.
it's just cool to see, like you said, I think the players recognize it before us, and a lot of people who just, I for one never questioned the fit. I'm just throw that out there, but
Real quick, I would like to throw that out there too. Let's put this on the record. I was trying to figure out what everybody was talking about this summer. So I was just like, this
me
looks like a
too.
good team to me. And on top of that, like quality character dudes, which matters for chemistry purposes, which is why you're
Exactly.
seeing the success you're seeing. But
And then
anyway, you continue,
Demar's
my
like,
bad.
no, I said, yeah, and then Demar's like that older generation of like the LA guys. Lonzo comes up from, like, obviously Chino Hills, which is LA adjacent. It's there's just so many connections. Obviously UCLA, there's so many connections that made sense. Where why would you think this wouldn't
Yeah,
work out from a
Vooch.
basketball standpoint in terms of them figuring it out? Like, all these guys are low key guys too. They just want to win, and they all have a chip on their shoulder in terms of changing that misconception of them that they can't win, or their play styles don't work, or Lonzo proved himself in a new situation, third team. DeRozan trying to get playoff success. Zach trying to get to the playoffs for the first time. So it's just the narratives are there, and the
Yeah.
pieces just they fit, and it's working pretty well right now.
And so you just made me think of a question. So in terms of credit for the success of this team thus far, um, remind me, who was the previous coach of the Bulls before Billy Donovan?
I seem to have forgotten. I think his name Jim Boylan, right?
Jim
Jim.
Boylan. Yeah, that sounds familiar. So Jim Boylan, if you take him with this exact same roster, do you see the exact same results? And I'm not joking. I'm actually serious. Like, what do you think would be the difference? Because I'm trying to figure out how much of this is like this team is just going to do this regardless, or how much do we need to include the coaching style and the coaching philosophy that Donovan has implemented?
Oh, I think they'd be worse off. They'd be closer to the play-in spot. I don't think they'd be below 500 because the roster is good, but I think it's all about empowerment. I don't think Jim Boylan would have
Yeah,
hired the team in terms of, even giving Demar the green light, or I don't know. I just don't think he would have been able to mesh the pieces as quickly as Billy Donovan has. But Billy Donovan's such a calm presence, and he's great with lineups and empowering players. Where if he believes in you and you earn his trust early, especially on the defensive end, he's gonna rock with you. And I think that's
yeah.
perfect for this roster's perfect for his play style in that regard. So Jim Boylan, I don't think the roster would be, or the record would be awful, but I think we'd be more of in a fight for the playoffs instead of a surprise team, quote unquote, at the top of the East. So
But I wonder what that is, because you're absolutely right. It's more about like empowering the players, and it's not necessarily X's and O's. Of course it is, but like that's that's not the whole picture. But from everything you heard about Boylan, it's like no, but he actually really cared about the players, like as people too, and that always shone through in different interviews and conversations and sound bites. So then it's
yeah,
just so then is it X and O's, or is it just like the way that you care, or maybe it's the pedigree that Billy Donovan comes in with, maybe it's the staff, right? Because you do have people like Mo Cheeks sitting right next to him, things like that. So maybe it's just a culmination of a bunch of different factors. And so once again, this isn't to bang up on Jim Boylan, but I'm actually just curious now, like what kind of effect this coaching staff has had on developing this group.
I think honestly we've seen more player development this year in the last couple of
Yeah,
years than we did during Boylan's short tenure. But even right before that, we've done a good job of developing players, but I think that took a back seat in the way when after Tibbs had left. We saw
right.
we saw
Yeah,
that a little bit less in terms of young players breaking out and then staying with the team even long term. A lot of our draft picks the last few years, like none of them are there besides Kobe White, if I'm not mistaken, and but might be forgetting
right.
somebody. The rest of those
Yeah,
guys were acquired via trade or free agency at this point, especially looking at our starting five and all the key players off the bench pretty much. So
yeah.
I think player development is a big thing when you see like a guy like Ayo having a role as a rookie, or
That's a good one.
you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
you see Billy Donovan not going traditional with positions and putting Derrick Jones Jr. as 6'5", super athletic, smaller wing in terms of body makeup at the 5 and playing well as a role man.
Yeah.
These are things that you have to be able to adapt to and not be kind of stuck in ways where this position should do this, or you have to be able to adapt and mix and match lineups a little bit better. And that's what Billy Donovan does. Like I said, the guys who don't play, they're not complaining or their role's not, ever going to change because he's a legitimate stay ready coach. I'm going to use you at some point. You have a
Right.
role and you have a place in this team, even if it doesn't seem like that this way, or right now at least.
Yeah, so two things come to mind. First one is, Tibbs is just not playing Io that first year. He's not playing.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
he would be playing for like COVID purposes. That would be it. Like, so we know how successful Tibbs was as a coach, but that's just his style, right? So that's a good point. Good tip in the cap to Billy Donovan for trusting. I mean, he got in the first game of the season.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then second point, I think is just, I think it's just the development is the most crucial part, because that was just sorely lacking from, like you said, that time that Tibbs was gone, and then you had Fred Hoiberg, Jim Boylan, and then all the way down to Billy Donovan. It's just like those two tenures in between, the development wasn't quite the same. And I know Fred kind of had a different team as well, but it's fun to see the player side kind of handling their business and the coach side handling their business. When those two things come together, you get a successful franchise that like people want and enjoy being around. So yeah.
Do you want to go to the Christmas games? I didn't really know how to segment out of that.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
What's this month though? This is like 31 something. Let me just cut 31 like 20 something to to 32, whatever. Okay, Darren Collison 10 days, Stanley Johnson 10 day for Lakers.
They signed Johnson too, right? Stanley Johnson.
Yeah, he's just with us and got COVID. Oh god, that shit works.
Nice in LA. What do you think of Isaiah Thomas out there?
Stop laughing. Man, that one game. What was that with the Suns? It was the weekend.
Man.
Him and Horton Tucker. Boy, oh
Horton
boy.
Tucker. That was rough.
That was terrible. It's not his fault. It's just funny how people are making up. They haven't won since they signed him. Like, this ain't his fault. Fuck out of here.
I did see that, and I was just like, yeah, that really is lame.
That's lame as hell. Like, it's on a 10-day contract. They have happened to play 4 games in the span. This is his fault.
I just like one of the responses was like, yeah, they haven't won since Spider-Man came out. It's just like, what?
That's hilarious.
Like, you can make this up for anything. It's not his fault.
Once the Spider-Man came out.
So that's amazing. That's what stuff ESPN be doing, right? They'll just pull any stat to fit the narrative.
That's true.
But yeah, so we got a slate of Christmas games tomorrow, and it's one of these weird Christmas days from the NBA perspective where it's hard to get excited for the games because you don't even know who's playing. Like I feel like I can't actually be invested in these games. They'll probably be on in the background. It's like there might be some cool moments, but it's like first up we got Hawks Knicks.
No Trae Young.
Celtics followed by Celtics Bucks.
Giannis is back, which is cool. That's great.
Right.
So that's probably the best game in terms of the Warriors are missing some guys too, but Warriors Suns Part 3 should be fun.
Energy of that game should be good enough regardless of who's out there. Like Gary Payton, could have a great game and then that would make it that would make it enjoyable nonetheless. But
How many Steph points? How many Steph threes are we getting?
I'm gonna go with between 6 and 8.
6 and 8 threes. Okay.
Somewhere between there.
I'm gonna say he hits 5 threes, but he has 32 points. But they lose.
But they lose. Okay. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
all of that makes sense to me. It sounds like a typical night for Steph. Around 30 points, 5 threes. And then that's followed up by Nets Lakers.
Is
That
KD?
Nets team is completely decimated, right? Yeah, I don't know if
Man, that's gonna be. That's the prime time spot. Like 5 o'clock.
right.
That's wait. No KD or James Harden. Or am I tripping? Are they still protocols?
Durant remains in protocols, Harden available, Irving not.
Irving.
So
I forgot about that. Hilarious.
Kyrie he can play road games, so
Kyrie's back.
that'll be interesting.
A
lot of people. Well, no, we don't have to get into the whole COVID thing. That's okay. That's a topic for another day. Kyrie Irving's vaccination status, but
the Nets, though, I will say they're missing even guys who've been replacing the main guys.
right.
I think 3 rookies went into protocols the other day, like David Duke Jr. and then Kessler Edwards and some other Cam Thomas. Or I think they just went into protocols. So it's gonna be interesting to see. As long as Patty's out there, though, they're fine. Patty Mills, he's been killing this year.
Right. No, I got the list in front of me. So it's Durant, Irving, obviously, who has to clear protocols. Bruce Brown, James Johnson, LaMarcus Aldridge, Day'Ron Sharpe, Cam Thomas, David Duke Jr., and Kessler Edwards. 9 players.
Who is playing? Is Blake? Okay, Blake. This is Blake's man.
Right. By default, Blake is getting the Christmas game again.
So who do we have? Blake, Patty, James Harden. Joe Harris is still out with injury. Man, they have enough players to play. First off,
this is gonna be rough. But the NBA has made it clear, right? They're gonna push on, and their logic is let's just keep playing. So we'll see. I mean, I think nonetheless, it's basketball. It's Christmas, right? I guess it's a good opportunity to have some games on in the background and enjoy some time with family anyway. So that'll be okay.
True.
Just basketball left this season where hopefully the outbreak and the enforcement of these protocols will kind of subside later in the season, and hopefully that lends to players' health as well. Obviously on the COVID side, being healthy there, but just from the physical ailments, like just take someone like Zach, if we can transition back to the Bulls. Someone like Zach with that thumb injury, right? Like he was just getting extra time to let that heal, right? And then any other sorts of knickknacks that people were dealing with, like basically having a week off. And then also real quick, he added the fact that having the postponements of these games, he only had to miss 2, right? So then it wasn't as tough as the last time he had to miss.
And we won both of those games. Yeah, and we won both of those.
You know what that does? That to me increases the chemistry and the belief and the trust between him and DeMar, because Zach was like, I actually like this guy just won out and won games, and I didn't have to be the man, and I don't have to worry. And so now it's like I feel like they're even more gonna look at each other as alphas, but like coexisting alphas, if you will. So I think even just from that perspective of just like Zach watching DeMar kill it from home is increasing chemistry there. Like I think their chemistry by the time the season ends, going into playoffs, is going to be through the roof. So I'm actually looking really forward to seeing how that develops.
I agree. Like I said, I don't know when we play the Suns, but they just remind me of the Suns from last year, where like it was a big. You just could notice the chemistry was apparent, even though a couple of guys had been there already with Book and Cam Johnson. That was his second or third year. Sam Bridges had just gotten to the league. Aiden, but then you add all these vets around them with CP3 and Jay Crowder, a few other guys. You got JaVale this year. Teams like that, where like you're just adding pieces to the core, but these are all like high quality guys who aren't complaining about minutes, but they also just really, like I said, there's already like you alluded to, there's already been moments where they've shown that come through, or like that belief in each other actually paid off. It wasn't just
Right.
like
Yeah.
that like those cliches you hear. This team is they get along well and they have decent chemistry. You see it on the court, like it's actual tangible results now. Where if guys are missing games, where you kind of like that back to that old Tibbs saying, more than enough to win, where you kind of you actually feel that way with one
Right.
all star out there or one guy go to guy with like a Demar or Zach. We do feel like we have enough to win, which is great, and I think the players definitely feel that way too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's definitely seeing that chemistry develop. Despite all of the hurdles they've gone through this season, whether it's just injuries, you just starting with Patrick Williams, right? That was a huge blow to the chemistry and the development and kind of the projections for what this team could do. They weathered that, and then Zach had his thumb injury occur, COVID protocols, Zook, Vooch's slump in the mix as well, and they just kind of weathered all of that, and they're still the second best team in the East. So yeah, it's impressive.
It really has been, yeah.
Yeah. So I got a list pulled up of Bulls Christmas games, and so obviously we know about the dominance of the Bulls in the 90s, so we're not going to get into those, but the last one from that 90s era, just if you're curious, was 97. Bulls beat
Okay.
Miami 90-80. Definitely sounds like a 90s score.
The '90s East Coast score for sure.
The East Coast score. This is Michael Jordan's final game, with the final Christmas Day game with the Bulls. 24 points, 11 rebounds. But then we fast forward all the way to 2010. That was the next time the Bulls were blessed with a Christmas Day game based upon being good again. So that just speaks to the agony that Bulls fans went through in between those time periods. But nonetheless, they made it back on the scene in 2010, and this was against the Knicks. Looks like Amari had 20 and 10. That's a name you haven't heard in a while, probably. And that's it. That was also the summer. I guess that was the summer the Heatles formed, and that's when we got Boozer. So Boozer had 26 and 19.
He did? Wow.
Yeah, apparently.
I remember watching that game. He was killing.
Yeah, he was killing on Christmas. He apparently had 7 turnovers as well, but that's okay. 26 and 19 is pretty impressive from that power forward spot. Any memories from that game particularly?
From that game, yeah, I remember D Rose had a nice and one move. I think it was like a spin up and under move. I remember he got into it with the Mario a little bit off like a free throw or something. Like I think it was like a made free throw, and then
familiar.
D Rose held the ball. I think Mario was trying to hold the ball too, and like that's the first time I seen him not even get into it, but like have words with somebody. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. A little minor dust up.
I know. Dust up. Yeah. Besides that, yeah, I remember being disappointed that we lost. I forgot how, or even who was out there that night, which is not kind of crazy because that was 11 years ago. That's the crazy part.
Right.
Yeah, I remember. I do remember the return on that big stage. I remember like random guys like Tony Douglas was in that game, and
Tony Douglas, yes.
Was Baron Davis actually on that team?
Was who?
Baron Davis. Was he on that next team?
Let's find out. Because that feels like around the time he was on there, but let me find out real quick because that's gonna bother me.
Baron Davis, Mike Bibby, a lot of random.
He didn't get to 2011, 2012, and he was only there for a year, so I think it was right before.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't the Baron Davis experience yet. But yeah, the Bulls lost 95-103. Next year followed that up with a Christmas Day game against the Lakers, and I'm sure this is a game you remember very much. We were talking about a little bit before we started recording, but Lakers pulled it out 88-87.
Bulls pulled it out. Come on.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. that was a slip. The Bulls pulled it out, 88-87. And that it was from a clutch shot from D Rose. Do you remember that play? What do you remember feeling watching that one on Christmas? Were we texting right after that happened? Like we were going crazy. That sounds actually familiar.
No, that's
in
exactly
terms of like
what
the
happened.
feeling of it.
That's exactly what happened. Like for real. Yeah, I remember going crazy after that shot because my brother Jamal, he's a huge Kobe fan, huge Lakers fan during that time, and
Yeah.
they were struggling, and it was obviously the first game of the season because remember the lockout of 2011.
Lockout.
They started the season on Christmas, so Bulls Lakers first game was just on Christmas. It was like, man, this matchup is incredible. Like that, just like that feeling of being on that marquee stage, but then also against the Lakers, against Kobe, the Lakers in Staples Center.
And then it sounds like you had a divided household on who to
it's a bit divided. I mean, he still likes the Bulls too, but during that time it was, Lakers are bust. And I actually remember the Bulls trapping Kobe, I think near the mid half court line, getting that steal to set it up. There was no timeout, I believe. Derrick Rose had the rubber 1 versus Fisher, got into the lane, and he hit the shot over like 3 guys. Like I think Powell was one of them, future teammate.
It's a tough floater, yeah.
And I was like, man, it was just like an arrival feeling. And this was after, I think this was it. It was the MVP season, right? Or no, it was right after. I think it was right after because the lockout season. This is when we won 60 games or 50 games, and
he won it the year before. Yeah.
Right. So it was just like that moment, and they were in that 2K commercial too with Kobe and Derrick Rose. It was a really cool. I don't know. It was a really cool moment for him to go into Staples Center and get that win because the Bulls. You remember, like during that era, before that, even the Ben Gordon days, we were struggling on the road, and especially like the big road games. Like it was, that was dope. That was dope to see. That's probably the fondest Christmas moment we've had during our,
I think so because I'm looking at the rest of this list. Yeah, these don't really measure up. Yeah, that would be the best one.
Wait, was it Christmas when Jimmy hit that crazy shot? You remember, like he hit this shot that like he shot it like all the way up into like the rafters and it came down. It was like half court. It was against the Thunder. I wonder if that was on Christmas.
So, right, that would have been 2015. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Because they did play at OKC that year on Christmas.
Did we lose that game?
No, 105-96.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Looks like Jimmy Butler had 23, Powell had 21, 13 and 6. That's pretty good.
Okay, Powell.
It looks like the third quarter, Bulls went on a 32-16 run that kind of sealed the game. So, this is, the Bulls have an interesting ride with Christmas games during the 2010s, but. Yeah, after that Lakers series in 2011, they played Houston in 2012 and got thumped 120-97.
Wait. I was going to say that. Yeah, please tell the leading scorer and rebounder for the Rockets in that game.
Omer Asik, 20 points, 18 rebounds. First game after signing a lucrative contract with the Rockets.
Crazy.
After showing some brief flashes for the Bulls from a reserve standpoint, got the bag, and then on Christmas, just obliterated the Bulls.
Was that James Harden team too, or is that too early? I don't remember. Was Harden there? He had to have been there.
Yeah, I think so. But also Jeremy Lin was there, and he had 20.
Right. Well, there you go.
But we also had Nate Robinson with 20. Oh, because Rose is hurt at this point.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I was like, there would be no other reason why Nate Robinson had 27 points on a Christmas Day game with Derrick Rose at full strength.
True. Shout out to Nate Robinson, though. He held it down that year.
Yeah.
Rose wasn't there.
Nate, man. Not only did he hold it down, he just made it fun.
He made it very fun.
You weren't even mad when he was just like kind of tweaking because it's just like,
right. Like, I can live with this. Really, this is cool.
Right. Yeah. So then 2013 they played Brooklyn. Was this like the KG Paul Pierce Brooklyn team in 2013?
I think so. Let me see.
I can't. Yeah. Well, while you're looking that up, so this is a rematch of the previous year's first round series. Runs of 12-0 and 21-5 helped the Bulls to work their way back towards the 500 record after losing 13 of the previous 17 games. So they pulled this one out.
Listen to this recap on ESPN. Jimmy Butler keys 21-5 run as Bulls rout Nets. Taj Gibson enjoyed coming home from the holidays. Gibson and Brooklyn native scored 20 points, and Jimmy Butler added 15. Chicago was buoyed by the return of guards Heinrich and Butler, Kirk Heinrich and Jimmy Butler. So this team was completely different. Wow. We were 11-16.
Yep.
Darren Williams, Mirza Teletovic had a high for the Nets. Wow.
Teletovic.
They had Brooke Lopez. They had Andre Karolinko. Jason Kidd was the coach. Wow.
AK-47. Oh, man. Utah legend.
Yeah, no wonder I remember that game. Wow. Kirk, I didn't look up those highlights. I don't remember this game that much.
Right. And so 2014, Bulls and Lakers again. This is Powell. I think this is Powell's first season on the Bulls. And so he had 23-13. This is against his former team, of course. Kobe didn't play. He was injured. But Boozer also played in his return to Chicago and was booed.
I remember that. I do remember that. Yep.
He had 14, but he got booed.
That was Boozer's last stop, right? He was in the Lakers, and after that,
it was either China or Big Three. I can't remember.
Which is kind of bogus because he can still score. I'm like, I don't get why he's getting this treatment. We still with other guys too.
No, you know what? You remember he unfortunately got saddled with that amnesty.
Right.
And so he became known as, remember that phase of the NBA when people just got known as amnesty guys, and that was just getting thrown around left and right?
Yeah, that was tough.
He became an amnesty guy, yeah. Yeah. And then so 2015, as we alluded to earlier, Bulls OKC, and that's when Butler had 23. Right. And potentially hit that crazy shot you mentioned. So allegedly, right. So yeah, I think the Bulls all-time Christmas Day record is 13-7, which
that's good. Hey,
probably a lot of that is owed to Jordan and Pip and the rest. But
rightfully so.
Nonetheless, hopefully after this season, we're looking at the Bulls on Christmas in 2022, because I don't know what if I was making the schedule, they would have been on the roster or slate of games for tomorrow, but clearly people didn't believe in this team, so that's okay. They'll catch up. But
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Let's see next year. Let's see the rest of this season, but then we got to be a lock next year, like you said.
Well, let me pose this last question to you. I think it's a foregone conclusion that they will be on the Christmas slate next year, but where do you see them slotting in? Right? Are they going to be in like that first or second game? Usually that first game is a super East Coast matchup.
Right.
But do you see them being like a marquee sort of area, like later in the day or more earlier?
Honestly, I think we're going to do so well this season. It's going to be that Warriors Sun spot that before the super, I guess that Nets Lakers is like, that's like the main primetime spot, but I think it's going to be right before that. Because I don't see us like morning, like you said, those East Coast games, like, you have those teams
right
vying for like, there's only 4 teams vying for those spots, and obviously the Bucks you'd have to consider. They'll probably be up there. Whatever teams are good in the East, and then whoever has KD, which the Nets, they'll be on there as well. The Knicks always have a Christmas Day game, so it's like, unless we're playing the Knicks or a counterpart,
that actually could be one.
Yeah, we've seen it obviously in the past. We talked about one, the 2010 one, so and then in the 90s as well. But hopefully we do get that primetime spot, because that means we did very well the year before. So
right, exactly. Yeah, so in general, I guess, so the Bulls, their next matchup is the 26th, right? Day after Christmas?
Yeah, Pacers, looks like.
Pacers.
At home.
So, yeah, that'll be their first game without Billy Donovan, but hopefully the team will be relatively fully healthy and loaded and ready to go. So, hopefully they enjoy this break. We got some hoops tomorrow, no Bulls, but that's okay. They'll be back, like we said, on the 26th. Anything you're looking forward to upcoming on the Bulls end?
On the Bulls, then, yeah, I just want to see how we fare against the Hawks. Hopefully, they have Trae Young back at that point. That was a team that obviously made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They're pretty depleted right now, but
Yeah.
we have a couple of games against them scheduled right now. 27th and then the 29th as well, home and home. So hopefully we can take care of these next three. Obviously the Pacers and then the Hawks as well, since they are missing some guys. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking forward to over this next week or so going into the new year.
So yeah, that's been this edition of Bulls from the Go. Happy holidays to everyone. Hope you enjoy the slate of Christmas games. Hopefully the Bulls are back fighting full strength real soon. Billy Donovan get well. Stacey King, I hope he's back soon. But yeah, this has been a wrap for 2021. Well, our next episode will probably be 2022 early. And hopefully we can talk about some actual games. There's been a lot of COVID talk and guys missing, but hopefully we can talk about some actual games. So yeah, happy holidays everyone. I'm gonna kick it over to Baro. And yeah, see you next year.
As always, check us out on bullsfromthego.com. Follow us at bullsfromthego. Got some highlights coming on Delay of Game Hoops. Just did some DeRozan highlights. Io's coming soon and a few other guys. Yeah, more content coming soon. Happy holidays. Bulls from the Go.